everyone, welcome back to the GRE How To Series, where we make studying for the GRE a lot more tolerable. Today we're going to be talking about the GRE Calculator and how to use it and when. So today we're going to be talking about the calculator. It is pretty cool that the GRE lets you have a calculator on hand, but I also think that it could be a hindrance as well. So first we're going to be talking about how to use the calculator, what certain buttons mean, and then also we're going to be talking about how to make sure that we're not relying on the calculator too much during the test. So on the calculator, you're going to notice the numbers and the symbols, but you're also might notice some of the letters on it. And if you're like me, you might not use the letters on a calculator. I always use a calculator to compute numbers, but there are certain features on the calculator that might be useful for the test. So we're gonna go over each of the buttons. Let's first go on to the memory functions and how to use them. So you can actually store a number into the memory so you don't have to keep on typing it. So if you want to remember a number, then you can press the MR button, which stands for memory recall. You'll also notice that you could use the M+ button, which adds a value to whatever you have stored in the memory. All right, so let's say that you compute 12 times 5 and you want to keep that in the memory. You can actually press MR for the memory recall button. Now let's say that you want to add what is 12 times 2. So you can actually press 12 times 2 and then press the M+ button to add the number in memory to the current value that you have. So that's a good way to keep track of what's going on. If you feel more comfortable just writing it out, do so. You want to do something that works best for you while still managing the time that you have effectively. Now, if you want to have a completely different number in your calculator, you do MC for memory clear. So that sets it to 0. Make sure that if you're going to use the memory function, that you're going to be diligent about setting your memory to 0 so that you don't compute something incorrectly. Next are the C and CE buttons. So the C button is pretty self-explanatory. It clears everything, all of your inputs. Whereas the CE button is used to clear the last input. So if you have a situation where you are putting a whole bunch of numbers into your calculator in a long stream of computations, like 12 plus 8 plus 7 plus whatever, let's say that you accidentally add 6 instead of 7, you could, in this very simple calculation, press the CE button and then it would have cleared the 6 and you can keep on going as needed. So I would highly recommend you practice with the calculator if you intend on using these functions, but also just make sure you keep yourself organized so that you don't have to depend on these functions to do your best. So there are at least 3 things that I think it'd be great to remember so that you aren't overly reliant on the calculator. First is fraction decimal equivalencies. So what I mean by that is knowing that 1/4 also equals 25%. And you might think that that's a little excessive, but it's amazing what our brains can do. I mean, our brains can recall that 1/8 is 12.5% quicker than it takes to put 1 divided by 8 in a calculator. So start trying to think about how you can leverage your mind in order to give you the speed and efficiencies that you need. Pro tip, if you're actually interested in taking this GRE to go to business school to become a consultant, fraction decimal equivalencies are actually super helpful for your casing process as well. So this isn't the kind of information that you're just gonna learn from the GRE and then throw out once you've gotten the score that you want. It's really handy. Next is your multiplication tables. You really want to memorize at least all of your multiplications up until 12 or 13. It's just so much more helpful if you know that 9 times 8 is 72 instead of putting in your calculator 9 times 8. Like, these are seconds that you could actually save by just instantly knowing these things. Another important thing when you're memorizing your multiplication tables is that you memorize them backwards and forwards. So you want to know not only does 8 times 9 equals 72, you also want to know that 72 equals 8 times 9. Having that kind of flexibility in your memorization is going to help you so that you don't get too stuck on certain quantitative questions. And lastly, it's always good to get some exponents into your memory. Knowing what 2 to the second, to the third, to the fourth, to the fifth power is going to help you a lot when you're trying to factor some things and work things out. I recommend trying to do that for 2, 3, 4, and 5 so that you have a sort of comfort with some really important numbers that you're going to be using throughout the test. If this video was helpful for you, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you later.